Hello, everybody. We're back. By we, I mean me and Mr. David Amerland himself. Hello, David.
Like, hi.
And we're going to be talking today about two subjects. We're going to talk about Hangouts on Air, surprise, surprise, and we're going to talk about YouTube and its impact on SEO. So for those of you who are joining us the first time, this is a series of videos based on David's book called SEO Help, which you can pick up on Amazon. And the book has 20 chapters, and so we're going through each chapter in separate videos. Most of them we've done one chapter per video, or one video per chapter, I should say. And in this particular case, it made sense to combine the two, so that's what we're doing. So today we're going to talk about chapter 16 and 17. And did I mention that this is a book by David Amerland? And this book is available on davidamerland.com. It's available on amazon.com. It's available basically everywhere. And if you don't have one, definitely pick one up. And with that, David, I'll let you start, and then we'll go into more deep discussion on the subject.
Okay. We've been talking about search optimization tactics practices for such a long time now that every time we broach the subject, what becomes apparent is that you can't escape the basics. So let's talk about the specifics here and how the basics tie into all that. Now, we're talking about Hangouts on Air, which is essentially a visual element, and we're talking about YouTube, which is the second largest. Actually, it's the largest search engine in the world right now. It's overtaken Google.com. And both of these play a key role in terms of how you surface your content. Now, the web is visual. It basically creates impact and virality through the visual medium, but it does a lot more than that. So let's look at the basics on why should you consider video as part of your marketing strategy. Why should you be thinking about YouTube as part of your social media outreach platform, to use some technical terms. Now, first of all, in terms of your marketing strategy, we've got to think that essentially marketing is communication. Communication takes place through several layers and levels, and they all amount to the same thing. You need to connect with your audience in order to establish a semblance of trust. Without trust in any kind of environment, you can have zero engagement, zero interaction, zero outcomes. Nothing will happen. In order to do that, you need to communicate. Communication, usually as people, we are geared to decode non-verbal communication, which is what makes the web, the digital space, so challenging, because most of the times we're looking at pictures, we're looking at memes, and we're looking at text, and we're looking at comments. We're trying to understand what is implied here. What is the tone when there is no tone? What is the possible subtext, which may or may not be there? So we sort of fill in the gaps, sometimes erroneously, and things can go very wrong. So if you're a brand, if you have a business, your primary aim on the web is essentially to create clarity. You really need your communication to resonate. You need to say, crystal clear, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is why we do it. These are the basics which we've always had. Of course, when you apply those basics into the visual medium, well, you can't just turn up on the video and say, hi, we sell pizza, come and buy it from us, it's really good. Well, that's what you're saying, essentially. You can't say anything else, but you have to show this in a different way. You have to show it in a way that actually begins to prove its authenticity. It begins to prove the veracity of what you're saying. Perhaps it corroborates through other sources and so on. It begins to create a connection with your audience. And this is where the visual medium comes in, because it is a semantically dense medium. It allows basically to transmit through the web the non-verbal communication signals. People can see what you look like, what you sound like, your tone, your approach, your reactions to non-scripted stuff, which begins to create a human version of what you do, which then begins to form that connection. These are pivotal when it comes to search, because essentially they create social signals. They help create all the little hallmarks of an entity in terms of all the attributes that you need in terms of what you do and what your business does. And in their entirety, as video is an easy kind of medium to communicate all that, and they begin to layer your message to your audience. But there's another perspective to this, which is critical, and a lot of people don't think about it. The perspective is that essentially video is a very easy format to engage with. You can engage in the comments. It's a very easy format to share in other platforms. It is very easy to reference and cite and use and reshare and post on other social media platforms and so on. That creates a multiplicity of social signals, which when they're analyzed in their entirety, they begin from a search engine point of view to create a fairly clear picture on the authority of what you do, your domain authority, so to speak. So if we go back to my example of making pizza, if you make the best pizza in town, people are going to talk about it. They're going to talk about your video where you show how you make it. They're going to talk about your recipes. They're going to talk about the experience, those who have been to your restaurant, and so on. And outlandish as all this sounds, let's think about Cronuts, which is just one small bakery in New York, and they basically took over the world with their publicity, and that helped generate a kind of noise and signal and social media sharing that created their domain authority on that particular subject and allowed them to be very successful locally. And that led to a whole lot of other opportunities. All this is achieved through a lot easier, or a lot more easily, through video. And why? Well, first of all, it doesn't take a lot. Secondly, it allows you to be authentic. It doesn't have to be scripted, like what we're doing here isn't. And thirdly, it allows that human connection. No, I don't have a script at least. Should I?
No,
and thirdly, it allows that human connection. It allows to say, hey, who is Oleg? Who is David? And it allows us to make an assessment at a very personal level. We've got to think that as people, we are hardwired to make these assessments. A large part of our brain is devoted to understanding these signals, referencing them, analyzing them, and sort of going through them to get out the elements that we need. So it's a very easy way to connect. And it's also very challenging because if you haven't thought through your own identity, if you don't know why you do things, if you don't know why you should even speak to your audience, the chances are you're going to get tripped up and the falsity will come through. So, we can sort of sit here reading through some sort of script, as like said, maybe we can bring out a script and I'm going to start reading and I'm going to focus, and the whole thing is going to go wrong because you'll be able to tell that the whole thing is very artificial. I'm not feeling it. If I'm not feeling it and I'm the writer of the book, then there's no chance that it's going to help you.
Yeah.
So
and
this is all in a nutshell. There's a lot of elements to this.
Yeah, so we'll kind of, as David likes to say, peel the onion here in for the rest of the show and discuss in more detail. But if you look about it, if you think about it, I mean, the thing that I did interrupting David there wasn't meant to do anything negative, but it proves the point that David was talking about, that the fact that you could not do this kind of a joke type scenario real quick and see David laughing and everything else. You cannot do this on paper. I mean, you can try to do this, but you can't. I mean, if you consider taking this entire thing that we're doing right now, and you're just considering printing it on pages of nothing but text, you can see just how boring, unreadable, and unusable. Basically, it's useless. Even though it's text, it's pretty much useless. So the medium of video is a huge difference. And the main reason is very simple, is because that's how we normally communicate with each other. We don't write a little piece of paper saying, go to the store, buy something. We do it to some degree. Like, for example, when you had a big fight with your wife and she just throws this shopping list in your face and she doesn't want to talk to you, that does happen. But for the most part, we communicate, like this face to face. And like David said, you got gestures, you got the intonation, you have the accents, you have, all these different things add to the face-to-face deal. And of course, face-to-face is normally done face-to-face. And it's having something like a Hangout is pretty much the next best thing, because if you look at, for example, my relationship with David, which is now multi-year long, I've never met David, unfortunately, in my life. He's never met me for the same reason.
We're gonna fix that. I'm gonna fix it this year.
But the bottom line is we became friends, which would have never happened with just some posts. I mean, this morning, for example, 99.9% of the time I agree with David. Anything he says, I usually agree with, because David, close your ears for a second. The man is brilliant. But at the same time, Sometimes I have some things that I disagree with him on. I mean, it's just a natural thing, and people don't always agree on everything. And so we had this little thing going between him and me this morning on this particular post, just a couple of comments back and forth with some disagreements. Okay. The reason being is because I said something, David wanted clarification on what I said because it didn't make sense to him. And to me, it was one of these deals that it's not that, you know, he didn't understand. It's just I didn't write it clearly enough to make my point. You know, there's a number of reasons why, but it doesn't matter. The bottom line is, if we're talking like we're talking right now, there's usually not going to be disagreement because there's a lot of interaction, number one, and there's also ability to get this resolved quickly, not with some kind of text that has no feel behind it. And that's exactly what, you know, with all my love for Google Plus and comments and everybody using Facebook and comments and things like that, it's not, text is not the same as video. So that's one huge reason why people prefer video much more than regular text, and why YouTube is such a huge deal, and why people look for everything they're looking for on YouTube, because they want to see. You know, I asked Google Home yesterday, how do I make corn, for example, we're doing for 4th of July. It said it didn't understand what I was saying. Okay, but when I typed in the YouTube search for, you know, similar type question, there's a bunch of videos, shows me exactly how I need to do it. So there is definitely, visual is a huge thing, and that's why YouTube is such a huge huge influence in everybody's life, if you will, because that's what people like, that's what people are used to in real life, that's what happens there. Then we take it to the SEO level. You look at it, okay, so okay, we got the video, we got it, we make the video, we do what David said about, you know, identifying who we are, why we're doing it, what we're doing, all of that. That's all wonderful. How does it help SEO? In addition to these signals like David was talking about, where you have all these different things going, people sharing, resharing, Google looks at all of this to try to make its own picture. And that's why it's important to make sure these signals are relevant to Google, because you got multiple things you're accomplishing here. Number one, right now I'm talking to you, you're essentially a consumer of my content right now, mine and David's, okay? So that's one thing is going on. At the same time, this YouTube video that we're recording right now winds up on YouTube that Google looks at from a search standpoint, and it looks at the description, number one. It looks at the actual heading of the video, and it looks at the tags, the keywords that you put in as tags, which you can put in or you can leave empty. But it is able to look at all of that, and then based on its own algorithms, looking at everything, all these points of light, if you will, it determines how useful and relevant it is to everything you're normally dealing with, you're normally talking about. So if you record a video discussing a book on fishing when you actually have a pizza joint, it's to Google is going like, what the heck is this? I mean, that's totally incongruent. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you be talking about fishing when you're at the same time trying to promote, you know, you basically own a business, which is a pizza, and you're putting a fishing video on a channel that has mostly nothing but you know, pizza related information. It doesn't make any sense to people. It's not going to make any sense to Google. So you need to make sure that you're clear in that department. So you're talking to both people out there you're trying to reach, and you're trying to show Google what they should do with your content to make sure that they position you higher so people can find you easier. I mean, that's the SEO part right there. So you're kind of working two ends of it, if you will, at the same time. If you look at it from a standpoint of Hangouts on Air, you know, like I said, there's no way I would have even known David if it wasn't for this kind of technology. And so it gives you an opportunity to interact with people, befriend people, and establish these relationships which are crucial for people to trust you and then do business with you. Like David said in his book on trust, another book you can get from davidamerland.com, you know, he's clearly showing it how, from a scientific standpoint, that we're not, and you don't even have to read any scientific proof of it. You know it yourself. If you don't trust somebody, you're not going to deal with them. I mean, it's as simple as that. So the idea is you need to establish trust. And of course, if you're hugging somebody and working with them and taking time with them, everything else, it works great. You cannot do this with all your customers. So the best next thing you can do is you can potentially invite them to these kind of hangouts where you can talk about your products, you can talk about your business, you can show other people's comments about, video comments about what they think about the business. You know, I have some things, like I have some restaurant clients, and I have some people recording something that said, like, I've been coming to this restaurant for 18 years. We love this place. you know, it's two sentences, right? I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but if you think about it, it's absolutely priceless from a marketing standpoint, because that's the kind of stuff that actually generate trust, even in people we don't know. That's one thing about, you know, humans. That's kind of interesting phenomenon. We don't just trust people we do know. We also happen to trust people we don't know if the statements being made are compelling enough, and if there is some trust that happened before about something else. So, for example, if you've seen some of my stuff posting about IT and posting about technology, things like that, you have a certain amount of um, knowledge of me and what I talk about. So if I bring in some kind of review of a new technology product, then you would have more affinity towards believing me, even though you don't know me, because you've seen these other things and it looks like I know what I'm talking about. I mean, that's basically the key. Over time, you get to know that I may not even know what I'm talking about, but you actually agree with the fact that I do know what I'm talking about. You know, it's over time it becomes much more firm, if you will. And this is the same thing with David. I mean, if you look at his stuff, I mean, I've listened to a lot of his speeches. I've read, you know, a number of his books, including the latest one that's coming out in November called The Sniper Mind, which is it's a very different kind of book than what he's written before, but it's a phenomenal book. I mean, I can't, you know, recommend it high enough. Excellent book. And so when you read that kind of stuff, even though I'm reading a book by him, it also gives me a glimpse, a very good glimpse into what the man is like himself. So between that and then watching some of these YouTube videos and getting into Hangouts with him, you know, it's almost, I feel like I know the man, which I do, which I do. And so that's the thing I would say. That's why it's really important to, not only from SEO standpoint, to show Google these kind of things, but also from a standpoint of establishing this relationship and trust with people you're trying to go after, if you will, in terms of your business intentions. And that's how you wind up achieving the results you're trying to achieve. David?
That's pretty good broad coverage, absolutely. I will add a couple of things in terms of technical SEO here. Essentially, I mean, Oleg mentioned keywords, mentioned headings, and mentioned summaries, which go into the body of a YouTube video, and they certainly help in terms of raising the visibility of that video, both in search and also within YouTube itself. But Google is also implementing technology which is quite advanced. It's got to the stage now where it can actually take script from individual frames within a film and transcribe it correctly. We're still at the very early stages of this technology, so it's something which you should not be relying on automatically to help your SEO, but it is certainly there. We're getting to the stage now where if you upload a video on YouTube, Google will be able to analyze it frame by frame, determine its thematic importance in terms of what kind of subject is it talking about, determine the semantic density, how relevant it is to that subject. Does it bring in something new? Is that something which is amazing? See the impact that the video has, recognize the faces of the people from the video itself, and then put all that together in terms of a signal which would allow it to determine what you do on the web. Bear in mind that although Google can do all this and it will do it increasingly better, there's still an economy of scale involved. You know, I was in a technical discussion this morning. We were talking about the crawling bandwidth allocated to a particular website. And this is a very technical thing. This is not something which is arbitrary. It is basically determined by the ability of technology to do so much. And that's all it can do, because to do absolutely everything is a limitless, bottomless pit that makes no economic sense. So essentially, if you rely on these things to just happen, you are fooling yourselves in terms of, you know, it's the old saying that, you know, build it and they will come for a website. It certainly does not happen. So video handled right allows you to create a multiplicity of points across the web, which then begin to make it easier and easier for you to be found. So the harder you work to make the connection, the more shareable your videos are, the more comments that you have on them, the more that people actually talk about them and engage with them, the higher are the chances that this is going to be indexed correctly. It's going to be then related to the importance of the stuff that you do on the web in terms of as a brand, and then that is going to benefit you in terms of search. So this is something key to keep in mind.
Exactly. And then one of the things I wanted to point out, I'm just going to go into a little video sharing mode here before David loses his voice completely. Okay. If you look over here, I just did a search, as you can see on YouTube, for just put in David's name and put in Sunday Read. And you can see all these videos. There's actually, it shows, if you put in double quotes, it shows 12 results. So you got 12 videos that come up with
Yes, and
various
I've never
people.
done a Sunday read as a video, right?
Exactly. And the point here being that David's Sunday Read, which is something I highly recommend to anybody, and I mean, it's like a highlight of my Sunday usually, is you just get up and there's this notification that, you know, David's Sunday Read is out there. It's always worthwhile reading, whether you concur with the points being made or not. It doesn't matter. It's always extremely well written and always makes you think, which is not too many articles out there that do that kind of stuff. And it's just a great thing to read. And David has been writing this for years. I don't know how long. David, when did you start Sunday Reads?
I think it's about 3 years ago now.
3 years,
so
yeah.
it's been a while.
Yeah. So, and David publishes every single Sunday. We're talking about week in, week out. It's amazing that you know, the schedule of it. It's better than newspaper publishing, but it's actually coming out every week like this, and so it's strictly text. I mean, everything is completely. It's never anything but basically text and links. David always has tons and tons of links that he references in terms of his points that he's making to show proof, like somebody wouldn't believe him otherwise. But he does put, you know, a tremendous amount of time and effort into making sure that these things are all linked, so you can see much more information than even Sunday Read itself is fairly long, but definitely worth looking. If you just look out there, you can certainly find it. That there's a collection. There's a collection, right, David? Sunday Read. Yeah,
There is, absolutely. Yeah.
And you can subscribe, like I subscribe, so you can get notifications and you just get them. But the bottom line is this: that here's an example here where some people, because it's not just David's videos, or what you're seeing here, you can see him in some of them, but at the same time, they were not necessarily initiated by them. But these videos come up in YouTube dealing with something that's completely text-based. So there's a perfect example how you can also use it from a SEO standpoint. You can even use textual information, if you do it correctly, to come up with, you know, if the content is compelling and people want to talk about it and want to talk about it in a visual form. Right there is an example. You know, like over here, like this third video says, semantic search author David Amerland has gained quite a following, not only for his book on social media search, and now, and you know, it goes in, I'm sure, to say about Sunday Read. You can see in the actual picture itself, it says David Sunday Read. So the reason I wanted to show it is because there's multiple ways how you can, you know, get additional love from Google, if you will, by putting things on YouTube. And of course, a lot of these, as you can see, there's 2 pictures in there, and these are Hangouts on Air. That's why the video, you know, shows people doing it just like we're doing right now with David. It's a Hangouts on Air. For those of you who may not know what Hangouts on Air is, you know, people using other platforms may not necessarily know. It's essentially Google's video conferencing platform that's tied into YouTube, whereby you're able to record a video with up to, I think right now, 15 people. And if you use the business account, it's up to 25 people being in the video. Like right now, it's just David and I. And you can have millions of people watching if you want. But in terms of being in the Hangout itself, as they call it. And then, of course, whatever you're recording, it winding up as a YouTube video in the end. And you can put your own description, put your own tags and everything else. But essentially, just a quick and easy way to record a video that goes on YouTube with a single or multiple people. So, David, in terms of Hangouts on Air specifically, do you have any specific recommendations what people should do or shouldn't do in terms of SEO?
Definitely. Once you start, before you even start, I mean, a lot of the thinking when it comes to video has to happen before you even get to the point where you're actually on air. You need to have a clear idea about what you're going to talk about. And this is not to say that it's going to be scripted, but you certainly need to have an idea of how it fits in with what you do and what value it's going to give to the audience. Pretty much like what we're doing here with Oleg. I mean, we have a very clear idea of the chapters of the book which we talk about, what the subject is, what the aspects are which we're going to talk about, and we usually take questions which enriches it further and also adds to the element of interaction and engagement, authenticity. It makes it very real because they're unscripted, and the questions, you never know what people will ask. So essentially you need to think about these things before you start your series, and it's always good to sort of have a journey in mind in terms of a number of videos which you're going to do, which will touch on different points, which essentially will build up a body of work. Certainly just doing one is not going to be of massive help to you, although every little bit helps. But having a sort of a body of work there working for you begins to eventually strengthen the signal that Google actually looks at when it begins to ascertain what it is that you do. So that's the first thing. Think very hard. The second thing is think about comfortable being on air, and certainly this is a very public domain. Now, this is a skill we all develop. Okay, so don't feel that it is an obstacle you cannot overcome. Think, what are you comfortable dealing with? How you present and how you are engaging with the people that come to your Hangout, and rehearse a little bit in your mind if you haven't done it before. Do go through the interactions and engagement, because the level of authenticity and engagement you will get during the video will determine essentially how good it is in terms of the engagement with people, the comments and the signals that it will generate. And those signals essentially do help in terms of the search engine optimization that you are hoping to achieve through it. Don't stick on you just on it being on YouTube. Once you have it, be ready to repurpose it. So essentially, you also need to have a content creation strategy in mind. You should be able to use it in different platforms. Perhaps you can write a Medium article and reference it. Certainly, you can go an article somewhere else. On other platforms, it can be shared even on Facebook, although it does tend to stay on Facebook, but it is still shareable within that environment. It can be shared on Twitter. Definitely, you can share it within Google+. And essentially, if you blog about it, you further reinforce the value of that video in terms of what the article around it will actually cover. And if you do it correctly, then people will probably reshare either both the article and the video, or just the video sometimes, which also helps.
And in terms of creating these videos, one of the things that let me put the camera here so you can see me. One of the things that I think is important to also look at is the different kinds of videos you can create, because a lot of people go, oh, okay, videos are great, awesome, but I hate my face, and I just my bad hair day, and on and on and on. I mean, there's a zillion different reasons why people don't want to show their face on the camera. And so there's different things you can do. It doesn't have to be just a video of you talking like we're talking right now. It could also be a presentation that you create in something like Google Slides or any other, PowerPoint or anything else you want to create. Once you create it, you can show that, and then you can narrate on top of it, and there is your video. So that's one way you can do it. Another thing you can do is you can create a video using some of these. There is, I think it's called Movely is one name. The other one is called, trying to remember here. Basically, they're cartoon-like characters that you can create, almost like animation creation software. PowerTunes, I think, is another one. It's called something like that. But anyway, if you look for these various cartoon-like animation creation tools, they allow you to create fairly compelling content as well, because they have kind of unique visual capabilities that they're cartoon-like, but at the same time they have things like hands sliding up the screen and putting some kind of text in there or some kind of character, and then characters, some of them move and they look like they may be talking, and you can be showing different pictures and stuff, and in other words, you can make it kind of engaging in terms of the content to try to get kind of what they call explainer videos that show you exactly what you can do. You have presentation software like Prezi, Prezi, which is really good because it's kind of allows you to do an animated presentation where you, instead of just having boring old slides, you can have slides turning. The screens can turn in a kind of circular fashion, so you can have something come in that zooms in, and then when the people click to go to the next slide, it winds up kind of actually being animated with a spin. And at the same time you have a zoom and spin, and you have Ken Burns-like effect that it creates. You know, there's different ways how to create visually appealing things and relay the message you want to relay, either just with the text on the screen or with the video narration on top of whatever content you create. So you don't have to be in front of the camera and necessarily showing your face if you don't want to be. You can be showing your products, you can be showing your like I said, you can have testimonials from other people. There's different ways how videos can be created. And if you don't feel comfortable yourself being right on camera, which is something that anybody can get past pretty quickly, actually, it's definitely you. It's not anybody else who's looking at you. So as long as you get it in your head that there's plenty of people who look a lot worse than you and have a lot worse haircuts and have horrible accents compared to yours, then you can kind of get past it and just get your information out to people so they get some value from it. That's the important part. That's the reason you're doing it. You're not doing it to try to be a video star or anything like that. You're trying to position your business to be more visible and presenting information that would be useful and applicable to people who are either your existing customers or your potential customers. That's all essentially why you're doing SEO in the first place. I mean, that's the whole idea, is to generate more business and establish this relationship and nurture these relationships and keep moving into the trust area. It's just, trust is something you can't buy. So you can't go to the store and say, I want to buy. You can go buy a video camera, you can go buy a computer, but you can't buy trust. So that's something that you can establish. And like I said, since you can't deal with people face to face, video is the best next thing that you can do. And you can conduct, product-oriented hangouts, service-oriented hangouts, where you describe how something works. Like one of the things, I used to work for a resort company in Idaho, and it just infuriated me because I came there one time on business and I had no idea how to use any of their appliances. And so there was this coffee maker, there was this weird coffee maker, which I had no idea how to use. And it's not that I'm a dummy or anything, I could not figure out how the damn thing works. And so it's late, it's cold, I'm over there alone, and I want to make a cup of coffee, and I can't. And this is supposed to be a resort. And of course, this was like 11 o'clock at night, so there is no concierges or anybody else. And so I was very frustrated and at the same time disappointed, and just went to sleep without my coffee. And David is one of the few people on this planet who knows the value of coffee. Right, David?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't live without it.
Exactly. And what I told the management was, it's so simple. Just take a regular phone, record one time a video of somebody making a cup of coffee, somebody obviously who knows how to do it. And that's it. And then you just put it on the website. And now every time people come to your resort, they will know exactly how to make a cup of coffee by just jumping online and looking at the video. I mean, how simple is that? And it's amazing to me how many companies fail to see that people need the information, and they have such an easy, inexpensive. I mean, it doesn't cost anything to record this video and put it on YouTube. I mean, it costs nothing. If it takes you 60 seconds to make a cup of coffee, I mean, to put all the ingredients and whatever you need to do to get it going, that's your length of your video. That's how much time you have to spend to create it one time, so nobody gets frustrated, nobody gets disappointed. But all of these things work together because, having this bad experience obviously leaves a footprint. And then next time when you come to be there, you may not come there. You may go to some other place because of this negative experience you had. And it's amazing how many people don't realize in business that this is so important, so simple, so easy, so inexpensive to implement, and what kind of impact it can have on the relationship with their customers and the value of their business and everything else. So video comes in from customer service standpoint, like example here. Also, it's a huge benefit from a customer service as well. And so there's multiple benefits of YouTube and Hangouts on there. I mean, many more just than plain old SEO. And of course, there's also huge benefits of SEO.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give you a real life example to back everything Oleg said. Not too long ago, I was doing some search on the web, on YouTube, for a leather repair video. And I came across a gentleman called Kevin Gillen, who's an expert on this kind of thing. And he had a video, as it happened, explaining how to restore leather and a leather sofa and bring it back to its former glory. Rarely have I seen a worse video in terms of technical know-how. Although he had somebody holding the camera, his delivery was very wooden, and I'm being charitable here. His was very still, that he hadn't really prepared for it, although he knows his stuff inside out. He happened to have a scratch on his face, so he had a bandage on that day, and perhaps he shouldn't have shot the video. And he had at the end of this video a customer testimonial, so he sort of dragged some customer from off screen by the hand, made her stand next to him, prompted her, and she gave a wooden delivery of how great he is. Now, all this sounds really bad until you actually saw him working on leather, and he knows his stuff inside out. He was animated, he was natural, he knew what to do, and he was utterly convincing. So this is a classic example of someone who you would normally advise, hey, don't do video. And yet that actually works for him. That really bad video that, can be improved 1,000,000% by just doing a few little things, actually had a lot of value in terms of showcasing his expertise, allowing him to show his depth of knowledge in terms of how to care for leather. And he was utterly convincing in that respect. And he was nothing in terms of what he said in between the frames of what he showed, and nothing of what the customer said, because I'm pretty sure she was genuine, but it looked like she was a hostage in terms of her body language. And, because, the moment you point a camera at people, they freeze. And she hadn't been prepared for it. So she actually did look like a hostage situation. And yet, despite all these drawbacks, that was a very human, very convincing, very real video. And it just, it just shows the power of video to actually showcase what you do.
Yeah, see, and the idea is to try to keep it real. And the way you keep it real is this is why snipers shoot from such a long distance. So people, are in real environment. They don't freeze all of a sudden. That's the reason they use such a long distance. No, but what David said was...
books here, right?
Exactly. What David said, though, makes a lot of sense from a standpoint that, when you shoot videos, a lot of people think I shouldn't shoot video, forget about how somebody looks. It's also, I shouldn't be doing it because it doesn't look professional enough. Because, we're all used to watching, ABC and CBS and even CNN, and everything is so polished and everybody looks so nice and the hair is in the right place and they say the right stuff most of the time. Anyway, you get the point. It's definitely very professionally done, officially professionally. But when you look at it, I mean, like David said, if you, look more deeply into what he was talking about, he was looking for somebody who knows how to fix a piece of leather. He was not looking for somebody to do a exhibition of beauty or fashion or anything else. He was looking for somebody that knows how to fix leather. Clearly, the guy had, David says, some kind of patch on his face. So the guy clearly has no clue how to fix his face. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing video with that. But he did know exactly how to fix the leather. And David overlooked all of the things that he mentioned that were negative about them speaking in a wooden deal. This is one of the reasons David and I, most of our videos are not scripted. It's not because we don't want to take the time, okay? I mean, some of the videos I do on my own, I actually create presentations to go with them because I use them as a guide because there's too many things to in other words, I want to make sure everything is kind of flowing smoothly. So I use it as a card. People used to use these 3x5 cards when they did presentations. I use slides and I put in the main points that I want to make and examples too, where it makes sense. But the idea is, it's, for those who are wondering why I create these slides, I only create them just to guide me. So I remember what to talk about. I mean, I know the subject. I don't need to have the details, but this way, it's a guide basically for me when I create these videos and stuff. But when we do stuff with David, we usually don't have those. We have some screenshots here and there, but for the most part, we just talk to each other like this. The reason being is because we usually get together on topics that we do know what we're talking about. That's one thing that's extremely important. In other words, don't try to create videos on something you have no idea what you're talking about, because that's just a waste of your time and everybody else's. But at the same time, it's because you get to see us as we really are in life. I mean, not to the degree, the ultimate degree how we are in life, but for the most part, in terms of generally speaking, you get to see us and you get to know us a little bit better because of spontaneity, because of the fact that we're just talking. We're not trying to follow some kind of script and read like morons from the, whatever they call them, teleprompters. My apologies to the prior president. but the idea is that we're just talking as we are, and and that's where you get genuine content from us. You may not like it, or you may like it. I mean, obviously that's going to be your choice, but the bottom line, you're getting the real deal. And that's why I think it's important, for what David described about this gentleman with the leather fixing video, is the fact that they're wooden simply indicates that they're not comfortable being on camera, and somebody told them to say this or be, just this is the things that you have to say. And the guy is not a pro. He doesn't know how to say. He's not Al Pacino. He doesn't know how to become that kind of person that needs to read this in a normal flowing way. So the only way you can really do it in a normal way is doing it like David and I are doing, where it's unscripted. In other words, sometimes you make a mistake. Sometimes you may not exactly say things the way you really meant to say or something like that, but it's genuine, it's real. And that's why, most people that do videos for YouTube and things like that would recommend to you, do not do any kind of stuff that looks wooden, or looks unreal. You need to be genuine. If somebody doesn't like you, they don't like you. It's just the way it is. It's just like in regular life. You don't prepare to go and have a conversation. Let's say you're going out with a friend to a movie. You're not preparing some script what you guys are going to talk about when you're standing in line to get the tickets, right? I mean, nobody does that kind of stuff except for Seinfeld. But you know what I'm saying.
Yes, yes.
Remember those conversations with George and stuff when they went to the movies with Kramer? Classics.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but those, I'm sure, were scripted ahead of time by Larry David, but we're not doing that in real life, so it doesn't happen like that. But they're professional actors. Like I said, you want to be genuine when you talk to people. You want to be looking at the camera, because when you're looking at the camera, it looks like you're looking specifically into these people's eyes, like normally people do when they talk to each other. If you start reading the screen and you're looking like this, then that's how you end up being visible, and it's almost like you're not even talking to them. So it's important to do a couple of these things. Looking, obviously anybody can do that, and be genuine. And if you make mistake, you make a mistake. It's okay. But know what you're talking about. That's the key thing. And the bottom line being is what David said is exactly the main point. And that is, he got the information he was looking for about fixing this piece of leather. That's all he cared about. That's the only reason he went online to look for that kind of video, is because that's what he needed to get done. He didn't try to get some model on the screen, or he needed to fix a piece of leather. He got a video, and the video did show how to fix a piece of leather. He got what he needed, and so that makes it a great video from that standpoint.
Absolutely. And that's the real message about value. So essentially, you do need to create a strategy, if you like, of how you're going to get that content across, how you're going to get your message across, what that message is. What do you think your audience would value in terms of learning, in terms of the things which you do, in terms of the things that your business does, and then get that across as clearly as possible.
And then, of course, one thing I wanted to add also is the actual, when you create the videos, creative is a bad word, because creative means different things to different people. Just don't, I'll show you an example how you can never know what's going to be popular, because what David was talking about in the beginning was how you have all these different points of light, meaning, all these points of connectivity, I should say, not points of light, but points of connectivity, where you have people sharing videos, resharing videos. They go on this platform, they go on that platform, and more and more people see them, more and more people reshare them. You get all this love basically from the internet, and that's exactly what you want. So how do you create a video that's popular, if you will? And this is something that's almost impossible to predict. Obviously there's some videos that go viral, and if you want to do some really crazy stuff, then likely it's going to get some eyeballs, because some people go for the Howard Stern shock value type stuff. But at the same time, when you're doing your business stuff, it doesn't need to be that. But in some of the videos I've done, as I mentioned, I have a number of restaurants that are clients of mine. I did one time a video which was extremely popular compared to all their other videos on Instagram. I simply cranked up the video recording, and when I was in the restaurant itself, and I just started slowly turning around and turning the camera around all the way 360 degrees. Like you create these 360 videos. This was just simply a spin. It wasn't a 360 video. It was simply a spin. That was the entire video. I can't tell you how many likes and what kind of engagement I wound up getting on this stupid turnaround deal, 360 degrees. It was nothing special. Just a video inside the yeah, it's a nice looking restaurant. They do have a nice decor, but it's not like it's any kind of special thing. Nobody said anything. There was just music playing, regular music plays in the restaurant, and it's got a ton of likes on Instagram. Another video I did just to show you some strange examples. Another video was a different restaurant. Was the girl that works there, she's kind of smallish in terms of size. It's a Mexican restaurant, and she's very cute. She's definitely very cute. But you know, she's obviously an adult, young lady, and she came in black attire. They always wear black in that restaurant, and nothing special, nothing different. Just, you know, her big smile. She's got this really kind of engaging smile, and she recorded. I asked her to record a message about inviting people for Women's Day. Uh, um, Basically, take their Mother's Day. It was Women's Day, I think. It was Mother's Day. It was Women's Day, to come to the restaurant and, you know, treat the women in the family to a meal. Nothing special, nothing extraordinary. Just invitation to come because of the holiday coming up. And the reason I asked her to record is because I don't speak Spanish, and it's a Spanish restaurant. It made sense to me to invite a bunch of people in Spanish. And so she recorded it, just a short video inviting people to a restaurant for this Women's Day. Okay? I can't tell you. I mean, this was the top video of all their videos that they've had for a while. It was the top video for quite a bit of time. And if you think about what is the big deal, and the answer is there is no big deal. Nobody can tell what the biggest deal is, because people, as I always say, are people, meaning different people have different preferences. You cannot predict what video is going to be useful or what video is going to be viral or anything like that. So don't even try to do that. You simply create content that makes sense to be of value. And in this case, there was a Women's Day holiday coming up, and so there was an invitation for people to bring their families and celebrate their women at the restaurant. It's as simple as that. Obviously, it resonated very well with a lot of people, Spanish-speaking people in this particular case, and that's why they all put all these likes and everything else in terms of, you know, comments, things like that. So the bottom line is, as long as it's useful, as long as it's has value to somebody, and of course, because different people are different, somebody most likely will have value, then this is great. If we recorded the video about somebody pounding nails and posted it as a Mexican restaurant deal, it would have zero value to anybody, because anybody who is looking for nail pounding will be looking elsewhere. They will never see this video. They will never like this video. People who are looking at the restaurant channel will think that these guys are crazy by putting this video of nails. You know, you can think about it as a shock value, you know, nails being pounded. You know, you're trying to create some kind of a pattern break in their psyche, saying, okay, we talk about Mexican food 99% of the time. How about a little nail pounding to kind of break the pattern? It's a stupid thing to do. It's just not something you should be doing. But if you create valuable content that's congruent with your line of business, then yeah, get creative. Do the spin 360. Put some pictures, you know, of the weather outside. It doesn't have to be all about Mexican food, Mexican food, Mexican food, even though it's a Mexican restaurant. Put some pictures of summer flowers, and then invite people to come in because summer is out clearly, and you know, and it doesn't have to all the time be about, you know, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. It needs to be more human-like, the way you would talk to people that you don't know. That's what you want to try to put in your videos. David?
Yeah, it's a degree of spontaneity. And I think if we mention, I mean, Oleg is right that you can never really predict which video will go viral, because it has to have that human appeal. But all of the videos that do go viral, we can very readily recognize the fact that it makes them do so. And it's usually a very human thing. It's either a sense of emotion that we get from it, from a video, or a sense of spontaneity. We get a sense that is unscripted and real, and gives us a window into something different. And one of the classic examples from very recent times is the dancing gorilla video from the Dallas Zoo that went viral across the internet. And if you just go into Google search and put down dancing gorilla, Dallas Zoo will come up in the video. It's just basically a gorilla who's given a pool, and you know, it's a hot day, and he's just going round and round in circles, throwing water around. That's all there was. And yet that saw millions and millions of views across the world, simply because it has a kind of energy that makes you feel good. It made you feel that, you know, here was a sense of a connection with a different species, and you shared his joy at something so simple. It was very human in many ways. Videos, you know, basically every video that does that allows you And Oleg is sharing on YouTube. You can see there's millions and millions of reshares of these things and lots of views on each one. And Dallas Zoo as a brand benefited from this. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. Just keep it as natural as possible. I'm just going to get past the ad now, and the gorilla will come on. It is a very endearing video. A lot of people repurpose this. They put music to time it with a gorilla moving around and putting throwing water everywhere, and it became quite a thing.
Yeah, this is actually was supposed to be Dancing with the Stars, but then they somehow, repurposed it for a different purpose. But that was the video, and actually I haven't seen this yet, but it shows you that I don't know everything about these things. But thank you, David, for pointing it out. It's pretty cool. Another thing that was actually really cool was we went to this. There's a great place here in Washington State called the Olympic Game Farm, where you can actually, it's like a little safari where you can go drive around, and they have different animals. They have bison, they have elk, they have deer, they have what else they have? They have bears, they have wolves. Basically, a lot of different animals. Most of them are in cages, but things like bison and bison and deer actually walk around your car. So you're driving in the car, and there's this bison comes up, and they sell you these loaves of bread. They charge like $2 for a loaf of bread, and it's already sliced. And you just give the guy actually sticks his head right in your window, and you get to eat. You get to feed the big bison or something like that. It's just extremely. I can't tell you how cool it is to do this. But the cool thing was they also had these bears, and you can actually throw a piece of bread over the fence, and the bear catches it. And so there was this bear sitting, and the guy, we noticed that the other people were feeding him, and we noticed that, after they got done eating a piece of bread, then this one bear is sitting there. He's just sitting there like I'm sitting right now, and he just kind of raises his paw like this, and it goes down, and then raises it again, and then it goes down. And it almost looked like the guy is waving to say, I want more. So then we throw more bread over there, and then the guy eats it, and then when he gets done, he kind of sits, and then he goes again with his paw. And it became very clear after a little while to see. I should have shot a video. My phone was dead. But it was very clear at that point that particular gesture the bear was doing, it was like almost a circus. Like the guy was trained to show people that if he raises the paw, that means he wants more bread. And of course, I can't imagine how much the guy eats all day long, because cars come there, all the time. But the guy's definitely not going hungry. But you can imagine posting a video like this, even it might not be totally related to your business, it just adds a little bit of humor, and that's where sometimes it makes sense to add a little bit of that. But you need to somehow tie it though to whatever you're talking about. In other words, don't just post it. If you're posting it to your personal profile, no big deal. Business-wise, it wouldn't make any sense, for example, for a restaurant to do this, but it would make perfect sense for a company that, for example, a bakery that makes bread, to have this example where this bear is sitting there catching these pieces of bread, eating it. Whether it's your bread or not bread, people have no idea. But the reference would be related, that there is this bread. Even bears eat our bread. I mean, you can create all kinds of different deals like that. And it's just the cutest thing. You see this guy raising his paw, and he gets his bread, and sometimes he would catch it in the air, right in his mouth. It was just awesome. So that's how you can create. I mean, this gorilla zoo thing is a very similar type situation where you see an animal in a kind of different type environment, and people love that kind of stuff. People just love. So anything you can see like this, people you think may love, or you may love for whatever reason, then it may be worthwhile recording, and then somehow putting it together. There's a lot of different tools available. Like there's a company called, I think it's pronounced Magisto or Magisto, Magisto, which creates some very, very nice looking videos in terms of effects and things like that. And they also have soundtrack you can pick from, and it's all you have copyright. It's not copyrighted, so you can use their visuals effects, and you can use their music for your own videos, and you can post them on Facebook, post them on Instagram, post them on YouTube. So there's a lot of things you can do with videos in terms of generating them, and for reasons that David and I talked about, obviously it makes perfect sense to do it. And the reason I think a lot of people really have great success with videos is because vast majority of people out there get behind the statement that, you know, I hate to be on video, I don't know how to do this, and they don't do anything. And so people who do something wind up being that much farther ahead in terms of being on Google, in terms of SEO and being found, because they get beyond this. Beyond this concept of you cannot do video is totally in your head. I mean, trust me on that. I'm not any kind of great videographer. If you can get behind or past it mentally, then you can see you can do videos just as well as anybody else can do videos. And some of these videos are pretty atrocious, like David said. You know, he didn't like the wooden element of this video that he actually used, and he mentioned the hostage, you know, situation in place being there. What does it tell you? It tells you that obviously these people do not necessarily appeal in all respects to all people, because some things they did, David didn't like, you know, the wooden quality of it. David didn't like the fact that she looked like a hostage. Obviously, those were negative things that David noticed. Was David right or David wrong? David, of course, was right 100%, because no matter what anybody else thinks, David thinks what he thinks. And that's how it is for most of us. We have our own opinions. So what you want to do is just get past the I can't create videos, because the technology before, it used to be where people didn't create videos because technology was simply not available. It was available, but it was extremely expensive to create a decent video and post it somewhere. The stuff was just not available. Now, with after the advent of YouTube and, you know, using something as simple as this to record a very high quality video in terms of the way it looks. I mean, the one thing you want to do is, even though you're not may not be recording as a professional actor, you do want to have the quality of the video itself, you know, the graphical quality be good, and you want to have the audio quality be good as well. Those are mandatory, and that's the kind of stuff that people don't like to see anymore. When you have this really grainy or shaky video or something like that, nobody likes that kind of stuff. So, you know, you have a little tripod you can put this on, you start, you know, push the button, starts recording, and you do your video. I mean, it's not anything complicated. Anyway, with that, I think we're going to be wrapping up here. David, few last words?
Video is a great weapon to use in your marketing. You should, I should say tool rather than weapon. You should definitely be thinking about implementing it. Whatever reservations you may have, overcome them quickly. The web is visual, whether we like it or not. More than 50% of the content is consumed on devices. And usually there are phones. They're notoriously difficult when it comes to reading a lot of text. They're very easy when it comes to actually watching video. So bear that in mind. It's a massive audience out there. It's an easy way to connect with them. As long as you're real, as long as you provide value, they will find it appealing. And, you know, as Oleg said, whatever reservations you may have, well, these are not the Oscars. You're not going for a movie performance. You're trying to deliver value to an audience like you would to a person if you came up and met them face to face. So if you approach it that way, you really can't go wrong.
Totally. David, thank you very much as always.
Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Always a pleasure. Let me quickly jump to Amazon here. I'm going to put up for folks that don't know. Let me pull up the I should have pulled it up sooner, but here we go. So there is I'm going to show on the screen here. Here's the book. It's called SEO Help, 20 Semantic Search Steps that will help your business grow. And am I showing it?
I can't see it yet. I think it's coming.
Let's make sure we're showing it. You guys have seen David. You know what he looks like. This is what his book looks like. And so right now you can get it on Kindle for only $11.99, which is a major steal, because we're talking literally like less than 3 cups of Starbucks coffee, and you have a phenomenal resource. So it's total steal there. And if you want to get paperback and you like the paperback approach, then it's $19.10. And you can get it, like I said, from Amazon. You can get it from davidamerland.com. Look for his other books on there as well. And there's other books on SEO, on semantic search, and even on trust. David has 10 books. Actually, is the Sniper Mind the 10th book or is it the 11th book?
It's a 10th one.
10th one. Okay, so Sniper Mind, the Sniper Mind is the book that's coming out on November 7th. That's going to be an excellent book. So you can get it right now. You can pre-order it and get significant discount on that, also from Amazon. But this book here will help you significantly. One of the great things about this book that I found is, number one, it's relatively small to read. It's not a hard read or long read. Yeah, it says what, 190 pages, but you can get through it fairly quickly. But the beauty of this book is every single chapter, they have 20 chapters in the book. It has specific, there's specific points, but also each chapter ends with 10 action items or questions that are being asked for the reader to do. And so you really have to kind of think, and some questions are easy. Question is being asked, you know how to answer it, it's your business, so no big deal. Other things you will have to kind of consider and strategize a little bit before you can come up with an answer. And also you'll find online, there's a community called SEO Help, and there's a tool that we put together, online tool, that helps you keep track of all of this, because 20 chapters, 10 questions, that's 200 items. And so it's kind of hard to keep track of all of that stuff in your head. So we have an online tool that allows you to track it online, and then being able to get to them and adjust them and things like that, and really kind of take your SEO strategy into your own hands. You don't have to hire expensive SEO people. You can definitely buy this book for $11.99 and then get this tool for free online, and then sit down, spend some time thinking about your business and thinking about what makes sense. I mean, in other words, the book will guide you. So it's not like you have to come up with anything, but the book cannot look into, and David cannot look into yourself and your business in all the details. And of course, every business is different. That's why it's great that you can create these 200 action items that are in this book and put them into this tool and remember them and go through them, and you'll be amazed how well it works for your SEO strategy. Okay? All right, so until we meet next time, again, David, thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for coming here. And we will talk to you on chapter 18. We're almost done with the entire book. Amazing. Okay,
Till
next time. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.